Hi, my name is Sherry Lahane, and I'm the director of the P3 project. From 2018 to 2021, 9 libraries implemented one of the 3 technology-enabled practices. As they prepared for implementation, there were details that they needed to attend to, such as access to technology, staff training, and recruiting and supporting adults who participated in these practices. Today, we're going to speak to representatives from 3 libraries who will share how they handle these considerations and what they learned along the way. We'll be speaking with Allison Geffredo from Riverside County Library System in California, Lena Bravo from Providence Public Library in Rhode Island, and Kristen Burnham from Prince William Public Libraries in Virginia. Our first speaker is Kristen, who will talk about how her library addressed access to technology. Kristen, your library decided to lend devices to increase access to learning circles. What details did you need to figure out as you prepared to lend devices to adults so they could participate?
We didn't want access to technology to be a barrier in participating in our learning circles. However, our plan to purchase laptops and provide hotspots for people to use brought up a whole list of questions. For instance, how should they be cataloged? We have a floating collection, but should these float or should they be assigned to a branch? How do we guarantee that they're actually brought back? The cost for the Chromebooks is pretty substantial. And if it returns damaged, do we actually charge the customer, which would, impact accessibility? So we wanted to make sure that it was accessible for our customers, but at the same time sustainable for our libraries. And we learned very quickly that when you innovate a new project, you learn a lot along the way. But thankfully, our cataloging department, they worked miracles. They came up with a system to catalog the laptops. We came up with a process that so far has worked, and they are available in our system for loaning.
Thank you, Kristen. Another consideration that libraries attended to was staff training. Allison, can you share how your library prepared staff to work in the learning lounges?
At Riverside County Library System, we found that our patrons have needed support with a variety of services, such as creating an account on the California Employment Development Department's website, searching for a job, and learning more advanced computer skills like using different Microsoft Office applications. So to meet this need, our Learning Lounge team spent quite some time using and familiarizing themselves with the different resources our learners frequently need help utilizing. So working with the Providence Public Library team, we practiced role-playing learner conversations to improve our improvisational skills so we feel more comfortable addressing a learner's challenge when they come to us on the spot. Building this comfort and flexibility has been key to providing our just-in-time services.
And Lena, what approaches did you use in Providence for staff training?
We found job shadowing to be an effective way to train staff to work in our learning lounges, to provide digital navigation and career services. They were able to observe how we handle diverse needs at the same time and determine what learning resources will be most helpful. This was useful because we have different learning lounges in different communities, and the needs of adults in each community differ. This approach to training helped to increase staff confidence in helping adults with many different requirements.
It's helpful to hear that role-playing and job shadowing were effective in increasing staff confidence and skills. Now let's talk about getting learners in the door. Kristen, can you talk about the strategies that you use to recruit and engage adults in learning circles?
We found that multiple points of contact really help to ensure that hesitant or apprehensive customers would actually feel comfortable in our learning circles. So we provided direct staff support to participants via email and over the phone. Whenever someone registered, we sent them our contact information in case they had any questions leading up to, during, or even following a learning circle session. And we also made sure to reach out to them before the first meeting, just to remind them that it was coming up and to address any last minute technical issues that they may have. And during the learning circle period, so for our pilots, we had 4-week sessions. We would email them additional resources that were tied to the discussions, depending on what direction that took. And because of the virtual environment, we always had 2 facilitators signed on per session. So one would be to actually lead the conversation, while another would be monitoring the technical background and address any glitches that may have And this method has worked out very well for all of our virtual programming. So I highly recommend, if you have the staffing, to schedule at least 2 people per session.
So once learners have been recruited, how do you support them? Lena, are there strategies you found helpful in Providence?
We discovered that patrons often needed one-on-one support. We offered in-person individual sessions, and when it was not possible, we contacted learners through whatever messaging app they were using, usually Messenger or WhatsApp, or through a simple phone call. For example, if they needed to learn to use Zoom to engage in a class, attend a doctor's appointment, or a meeting, we often met with them 2 to 3 times, and through a step-by-step process, we onboarded them to the digital resources they needed. Once we address the individual's immediate needs, we extend their learning by teaching them how to use the resources independently. In many cases, that meant they learn how to use their phones to access the resources. Then we scheduled follow-up sessions to answer questions or move to the next step.
And what about learning resources? What did you need to think about when selecting resources for adults? Let's hear from Allison and then Kristen.
Even though the majority of our staff is bilingual in English and Spanish, we learned pretty quickly this wasn't enough. We learned that it's important to have resources that are accessible in both English and our patrons' home language to ensure that deep learning can take place. We especially needed resources in a variety of languages that support learning in jargon-heavy topics, such as digital literacy and U.S. citizenship test preparation, which is a challenge we're still trying to address. This just highlights there's a huge need for learning resources that are inclusive and diverse, and that these resources are made available in the languages of one's community.
In our first learning circles, we focused on workforce and career readiness, areas that require digital skills pretty explicitly. And I just assumed that our next learning circles would follow suit. However, under our facilitator's recommendation, we instead featured a course on health literacy, specifically for immigrants. And the participants absolutely loved it. They were still learning digital skills by navigating the course, but it was heading in a direction that I absolutely had not anticipated. And for me, it was a great reminder that we want to make sure that we're providing what the customer actually needs, instead of what we just assume that they need. So it was a fantastic lesson.
The last question is about partnerships. How have external partnerships contributed to the success of these practices?
At Providence Public Library, partnerships have been the key to the growth of learning lounges in Rhode Island. They provide mutually beneficial services such as bidirectional recruitment and referrals, complementary services that fulfill gaps in the needs of an individual, and a pathway that enables adults to move forward with the next step in reaching their goals.
Prince William Public Libraries had an external partnership with the Literacy Volunteers of America Prince William chapter, and they provided us with an instructor for the first 2 pilots, as well as helping us attract attendees from their contact lists. And this was extremely helpful to us, as they had the means to advertise the program to people that we ordinarily would not see come into the library, especially since at this time, all of our libraries were closed, so we weren't seeing anyone. They also provided really invaluable insights into what subjects we should focus on for our pilots, and truly were amazing in helping to direct the conversation forward.
We had the pleasure to launch our new mobile literacy resource vans, Library Connect, in September 2021. These vans provide various types of educational enrichment activities for all ages, as well as just-in-time services using the Learning Lounge model. We've been able to do this work by partnering with local organizations that range from public parks to a local gas station, allowing us to bring this service to locations where we can serve the surrounding community. Without those businesses or places, we would not have a physical location to bring our mobile literacy resource vans. And we've discovered that community organizations are thrilled with this service, and organizations we've previously had no contact with are reaching out to us and asking to bring our mobile library and literacy services to them and their service community. This mobile service has also helped us partner with organizations that we've had difficulty generating interest with in the past, such as our local housing coalition. And we're excited to see where this new service takes us.
When planning a new program, there are details that arise that we can't always anticipate. So thank you, Lena, Allison, and Kristen, for sharing what you've learned in implementing these practices.